The sun was setting as I pulled up in front of the familiar brick house that had been my childhood home. It had been years since I last set foot in this place, and while the structure itself hadn't changed, the aura surrounding it felt different. I took a deep breath and stepped out of the car. The familiar scent of the garden flowers greeted me. I approached the front door, clutching the small suitcase in my hand. Before I could knock, the door swung open, revealing my mother. She looked older than I remembered. Her once vibrant hair had grayed considerably, and lines had formed on her face. There was an air of tiredness about her. "Lucy," she said flatly, her eyes scanning me from head to toe. "Mother," I responded, equally devoid of emotion. Without a word, she turned her back to me and walked inside, expecting me to follow. I hesitated for a moment, then entered. The interior of the house was much as I remembered, though slightly more cluttered. I set my suitcase down in the living room and looked around. The photos on the mantelpiece caught my attention. Pictures of my brother, Alex, his wife, Vanessa, and their various trips and celebrations. I was conspicuously absent from these memories. "Your room is just as you left it," Mother said, interrupting my thoughts. "Thank you," I replied, trying to maintain civility. She looked at me for a moment, her gaze cold and calculating. "Now that you're back, I expect you to contribute financially." I wasn't surprised by the demand. "How much do you need?" I asked. She named a sum, larger than I had anticipated. I bit back a retort. "Fine, I'll transfer it to your account every month." She nodded, seemingly satisfied. "Alex and Vanessa live next door now," she added after a pause. I hadn't been informed of this piece of news. "That's good to know," I said, unsure of how to feel about living so close to Alex and Vanessa. Their relationship with me had always been strained. "Vanessa is a good woman," Mother said, a hint of defensiveness in her tone. "She's been a great help since your father passed." "I'm sure she has," I said, keeping my tone neutral. There was an uncomfortable silence. I could feel the weight of years of unsaid words and emotions between us. "I should unpack," I said finally, breaking the silence. Mother simply nodded and walked away, leaving me alone in the living room. The first night back in my old room was filled with a whirlwind of memories. The pale blue walls, the rickety bookshelf, the posters I'd hung up during my teenage years, everything seemed untouched by time. As I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind wandered to the past. It felt strange being back here, surrounded by echoes of a time when things seemed simpler. I remembered the days when I used to sit on this very bed, confiding my dreams and hopes to my father. He was always my rock, always encouraging me to chase my ambitions, no matter how far-fetched they might have seemed. I recalled a particular evening when I was around 15. I was feeling dejected, upset over a comment my mother had made about my appearance. I remembered coming to my room, tears streaming down my face, when my father walked in. "Lucy," he had said, sitting down next to me. "Why the tears?" "It's Mom," I'd sniffled. "She said I look like her when she was my age, but she's just being kind. I saw her photos, Dad. She was beautiful." He'd looked at me, his eyes full of compassion. "Your mother was, and still is, a striking woman. But beauty is more than just looks, Lucy. It's the kindness you show, the love you give, and the way you treat others. And in those aspects, you shine brighter than anyone I know." I'd smiled weakly, taking comfort in his words. "Thanks, Dad." He had hugged me tightly, whispering, "Always remember, you're capable of great things." Shaking off the memory, I decided to go downstairs and make some tea. The house was silent, with only the faint ticking of the wall clock. As I passed the living room, I noticed a bunch of old family albums stacked on the coffee table. Curiosity got the better of me, and I began flipping through them. There were many photos of my mother in her youth, looking radiant and confident. Photos of family trips, holidays, and gatherings. My brother, Alex, prominently featured in most of them, always the center of attention with his charming smile and good looks. It was evident he was the apple of my mother's eye. As I continued to turn the pages, I stumbled upon a photo of Alex and me during one of our rare moments of camaraderie, probably taken during a family vacation. I smiled, remembering the day when we built sandcastles together, competing to see whose would last the longest against the tide. Lost in thought, I was startled when I heard a voice behind me. Going down memory lane? I turned to see Alex standing there, looking much the same as he did in the photos, albeit a few years older and with a touch more arrogance in his eyes. "Alex," I said, surprised. "Didn't expect to see you here so early." He shrugged, leaning against the doorway. "Thought I'd check on Mom and, of course, see how you're settling in." I hesitated for a moment. "I'm doing fine. It's good to be back." Alex smirked. "I'm sure it is, especially with Mom's finances coming to your rescue." I frowned, not appreciating the insinuation. "I'm here because I want to be close to family, not for any other reason." He raised an eyebrow. "Sure. Anyway, just wanted to remind you not to forget about the money you promised Mom." I sighed. "I won't forget." Alex nodded, his gaze lingering on the family albums. "Good. Just remember who's really taking care of things around here." With that, he turned and left, leaving me feeling a mix of annoyance and sadness. Time seemed to go by slowly in that house. The days blurred into one another, with the routine being much the same. Every morning, I'd wake up, make breakfast for Mom and myself, and then work from home. I had hoped the atmosphere would improve, but it only seemed to grow tenser. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of work, I decided to treat the family to a home-cooked meal. I had always found solace in cooking, and it felt good to do something productive that wasn't tied to my job. As the aroma of roasted chicken and fresh-baked bread wafted through the house, I hoped it would be an evening of peace and unity. When dinner was ready, I set the table and called everyone. Alex and Vanessa had been frequenting our house almost daily since my return. I never really understood their constant presence, but I tried to maintain civility for my mother's sake. Vanessa was the first to comment as she took her seat, her eyes scanning the dishes. "Oh, a home-cooked meal? This is new. I thought you were too busy being a career woman to bother with such things." Suppressing my annoyance, I replied, "I thought it'd be nice for a change. Hope you like it." Alex chuckled. "Let's hope it tastes better than it looks." Mom, always keen on avoiding confrontations, quickly intervened. "Let's just eat. It smells lovely, dear." Dinner was a quiet affair, with only the clinking of cutlery breaking the silence. I was relieved when it was over, but just as I began collecting the dishes, Vanessa spoke up. "You know, Lucy, it's such a shame. A woman of your age, with no husband or children, all that money and success, but no one to share it with." Feeling my cheeks heat up, I retorted, "I'm content with my life choices, Vanessa. Not everyone measures success by the same yardstick." Alex smirked. "Well, some people just aren't cut out for family life. Maybe it's for the best." The sting of their words was hard to ignore, but I took a deep breath, reminding myself that I had promised Dad I would look after Mom. Mom, however, seemed oblivious to the tension. "By the way, dear," she began, her eyes on me, "the money you gave me last month is running low, and with the additional expenses—" She trailed off, glancing meaningfully at Alex and Vanessa. Vanessa smiled sweetly. "Oh, it's so hard to manage finances these days. Prices have gone up so much. But we appreciate your help, Lucy." Feeling cornered and irritated, I replied, "I'll see what I can do, Mom, but you need to budget better. I can't keep bailing everyone out." Alex's face darkened. "You stay in this house, eat our food. It's the least you can do." The room was thick with tension. I wished I could just walk away, but I was trapped in this situation, bound by my promise to Dad. Each day, it became clearer to me that my brother and Vanessa saw me as nothing more than a cash cow. Mom, caught in the middle, seemed to bend under their influence, relying more and more on me for financial help. I often felt like an outsider, isolated and unwelcome in my own home. One evening, as I was returning from a walk, I overheard a conversation between Alex and Vanessa in the garden. They didn't notice me, and their voices carried clearly in the stillness of the evening. "I don't understand why she's still here," Vanessa said, with a note of annoyance. "She has her own house, her own life. Why did she have to come back?" Alex sighed. "She's here because of Mom. But don't worry, Once we get enough money, we can finally buy that house we saw downtown. We just need to be patient. Patient? It's been months, and she's so stingy. She should be giving us more, considering she's living here. Alex chuckled. She's not going to stay here forever. We need to make the best of it while she's still here. Maybe we can convince Mom to ask her for more money. Hearing their scheming made my blood boil. The audacity of them, discussing me like I was some kind of intruder in my family home. But it was Vanessa's next words that truly hurt. Honestly, I don't know what she does with all that money. It's not like she has a family or anything, just a lonely old woman with no life. I felt a lump forming in my throat. The hurtful words cut deep. Without making my presence known, I quietly retreated to my room, feeling both angry and humiliated. That night, dinner was a tense affair. Alex and Vanessa exchanged furtive glances, while Mom seemed lost in her thoughts. I kept my head down, picking at my food. Then, as if on cue, Mom cleared her throat and said, "Lucy, dear, we've been thinking. With all the expenses and everything, we were hoping you could contribute a bit more." My gaze snapped up to meet hers. "More? Mom, I'm already giving you so much." Alex interjected, "You live in this house. You should pay your fair share. I've got my own family to look after." Vanessa smirked. "It's only fair, isn't it?" Feeling cornered, I took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. "I came here to support you, Mom, not to fund Alex and Vanessa's lifestyle. This was Dad's house too, remember?" Alex's face turned red with anger. "How dare you? This is our family home. You left. You chose your career over us." Vanessa added, "You're lucky we even let you stay here. Maybe it's time for you to leave." I stared at them in disbelief. "Is this what you all want?" Mom looked away, unable to meet my gaze. "Maybe it's best, dear." Tears filled my eyes. I felt like a stranger, rejected by my own family. "Fine," I said, standing up. "I'll leave, but I'm done supporting you financially." The doorbell rang, breaking the tranquility of my morning. I opened the door, not expecting to see my mother there, especially after everything that had transpired. But there she was, her posture upright, an intense look in her eyes. "Lucy," she said sharply, without a hint of warmth, "I need to speak with you." I raised an eyebrow, but let her in, curious about what had brought her to my door. Once inside, she wasted no time. "You know your father would be turning in his grave if he knew how you were treating me, abandoning your family in their time of need." I stared at her, trying to keep my emotions in check. "This isn't about what Dad would have wanted. This is about how you and the rest have treated me since I got back. I've been nothing but supportive, and you've given my hard-earned money to Alex and Vanessa while they disrespect me in my own home." She scoffed, her voice dripping with disdain. "You think you're so high and mighty just because you have some money now. It doesn't change who you are. You owe us, especially after promising your father you'd look after us." "I promised Dad I'd look after you, not be taken advantage of," I retorted, trying to keep calm. "All I asked for was a bit of respect in return, but it seems that's too much for you, Alex and Vanessa." My mother's eyes flashed with anger. "You know what? It's easier living with Alex and Vanessa. They might have their flaws, but at least they don't throw their money in my face and try to act superior." A small smile crept onto my face. "You made your choice, Mom. If that's the life you want, so be it." She glared at me, fury evident in her gaze. "Remember this moment, Lucy. Remember the day you turned your back on your family." "I remember the day my family turned their back on me," I replied calmly, standing my ground. "You made your choice, Mom. Now face the consequences." She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I sighed, feeling a mixture of sadness and relief. One evening, as I was trying to divert my mind by watching a movie, my phone buzzed. It was Alex. "Why aren't you answering Mom's calls? Do you even care anymore?" The text read. I paused for a moment before responding. "Alex, I've always cared, but there are limits to what one can tolerate." He replied instantly, "You're overreacting. Just because of a few comments? Grow up, Lucy." "It's not just a few comments, Alex. It's years of feeling unappreciated, disrespected, and used. I've decided to distance myself for my own sanity." There was a brief pause before he responded. "So you're abandoning us. Nice." "No," I typed. "I'm not abandoning anyone, but I'm setting boundaries. I won't be an ATM or a punching bag anymore." Another buzz. It was Vanessa. "Lucy, we're family. We should stick together. Don't let your pride ruin everything." It was clear that they were talking to each other, probably sitting together, discussing how best to handle the Lucy situation. I sighed. "Vanessa, it's not about pride. It's about self-respect." I also called my bank the next day, ensuring that there were no joint accounts or any financial ties with my family. It was tough, but it felt necessary. A week later, I met up with an old friend, Carla, who I hadn't seen in years. As we caught up over coffee, I poured out everything, from my father's death to the recent confrontations. Carla listened patiently, occasionally nodding or frowning. When I finished, she took a deep breath. "Lucy, you did the right thing. Family is important, but it's not a license to be mistreated." I nodded, sipping my coffee. "It's just hard, you know. I keep thinking about the good times, the moments when we were close." Carla placed her hand over mine. "It's okay to mourn the relationship you wish you had, but you've got to protect yourself too." Several months had passed since the incident with my mother. Life had resumed its regular pace, but with a notable calmness. The lack of drama felt refreshing, almost rejuvenating. My phone buzzed less frequently, and when it did, it was often messages from friends or work emails, nothing stress-inducing. One afternoon, after wrapping up a long meeting, I decided to head to my favorite coffee shop. As I stood in line, I noticed a familiar face seated in the corner. It was Vanessa, and she looked a shadow of her former self, hunched over and absorbed in thought. Beside her, Alex seemed deep in conversation on the phone, his face strained. Feeling a pang of curiosity, I quietly ordered my drink and took a seat nearby, ensuring I was out of their immediate sight. I couldn't help but overhear snippets of Alex's conversation. "I know, but the loan was rejected. We tried everything." Alex's voice was desperate. I felt a jolt of surprise. Financial troubles? I sipped my coffee, not wanting to eavesdrop, but it was hard to tune out their obvious distress. After Alex hung up, Vanessa said, "What are we going to do now? We have so many bills, and without your job—" "We'll figure something out," Alex interrupted, rubbing his temples. I sat there for a while, taking in the scene. There was a twisted sense of satisfaction in seeing them struggle. Was it karma? I had always been their safety net, and now they were facing the realities of life without one. Just as I was about to leave, Vanessa's eyes met mine. I braced myself for a confrontation, but all she did was offer a weak smile. "Lucy." "Vanessa," I replied, nodding. "I didn't expect to see you here," she murmured. "Likewise," I responded. There was an awkward pause. I could tell she wanted to say something, but the words seemed to evade her. Finally, she whispered, "Life's been hard. We're facing a lot of financial issues." I nodded slowly. "I'm sorry to hear that." Alex, realizing I was there, interjected, "Lucy, can you help us out? Just one last time?" I took a deep breath. The old Lucy would have said yes immediately, but this was the new Lucy, the one who valued self-respect over appeasement. "I'm sorry, Alex. You both need to figure it out on your own." Vanessa looked down, tears forming in her eyes. "We're family, Lucy. Can't you see we're struggling?" "Yes, Vanessa, I see. But I'm not responsible for your choices. Maybe this is a chance for you both to learn and grow." Alex looked at me with disbelief. "So that's it? You're just going to watch us sink?" I stood up, ready to leave. "It's not about watching you sink. It's about letting you learn to swim on your own." It was a crisp morning when I sat in my favorite cafe, the sunlight streaming through the window warming my face. Over a cup of freshly brewed coffee, I was lost in thoughts about the whirlwind of a year it had been. My phone buzzed, pulling me out of my reverie. There was a message from Katie, an old school friend and a distant relative of my mother's. "Hey Lucy, long time. Not sure if you've heard, but things have changed a lot back here. Your mom, Vanessa, and Alex had to sell the house. They're now in a rented apartment." To be honest, it doesn't seem great. They're constantly at each other's throats. Your mom mentioned their mounting debts. I just thought you should know. Hope you're well. I typed back. Thanks for letting me know, Katie. Hope you're doing well. I paid for my coffee and walked back to my apartment, the city sounds in the backdrop. Once home, I found a note slid under my door. Curious, I picked it up. It was from my mother. Lucy, I don't know how to say this. We're in a tight spot. Vanessa and Alex's habits haven't changed, and our debts have piled up. We had to let go of the house. I know we haven't been on the best terms, but I was wondering if you could help? Love, Mom. A rush of emotions washed over me. For a brief moment, guilt and empathy battled within. But then, clarity dawned. I had already paid my dues, both emotionally and financially. It was time for them to face the music of their own choices. Sitting down, I penned a short reply. Mom, I received your note. I'm sorry to hear about the situation. However, I've chosen a path of self-care and well-being. I've done my part in the past, and now it's time for you both to take responsibility. I won't be able to assist financially or otherwise. Please understand. Take care, Lucy.